Hello students, how are you? Welcome back to the materials for week 4 with me, Miss Mona Lisa Pasaribu. The material for this week is about the environment, and this is the material for English 1 for Diploma 3. So let us check the material for this week. So as you can see over here, the outline for week 4 is going to be about the environmental organization, and then we will have a grammar discussion, and then we will have a practice for the grammar identification. So let us check the topic. So as you can see over here, the topic is about environment. Some of you may not be familiar with this topic. Environment is the surroundings of you, so like the trees, the plants, and everything that is happening around you. Okay, so over here as you can see, there are two pictures of a good environment and a bad environment, and nowadays there are plenty of organizations or plenty of activists, I would say, who are working or struggling to save the environment to become a better environment. Okay, so we are going to discuss the topic by first having a very quick question. So my very first questions for this week's material will be about the environmental organization. Are you familiar with environmental organization? If you are familiar, please list some of the local environmental organization or international environmental organization. There are, I guess, plenty of local and international environmental organization, since they are all working together to save the earth, to save the environment. Okay, so that grab your pen and your notes, and then put the list in your notebook. Okay, we will discuss this later on in our practicum session. And there's also one more question. What are the programs that you know of? You don't have to answer this question if you don't know. The most important thing is whether you actually know what is the name of the organization. Okay? So, to begin with, there is a text over here about young environmental heroes. What I want you to do with this reading first is to read it out loud by yourself. So first of all, I want you to pause this recording, and then after that, read this text by yourself out loud, and then after that, check the words that you don't understand. Okay? The text is pretty much telling you about how to register to an environmental organization. Okay, so yeah, so read it by yourself and then check the words that you don't understand. And then after that, I list over here reading comprehension questions. So what I want you to do next is to check your understanding by answering these questions about the reading that you have just done. Okay, again, please write down the answer in your notes. Okay, now we'll be discussing about the modal verbs as the grammar discussion for this week. So what we will discuss for the modal verbs is the first one. We will discuss the sample of modal verbs, and then we'll be discussing about the characteristics, and then we'll discuss about the use of modal verbs itself. So let us discuss one by one. So the examples of modal verbs are over here. So as you can see, there is a word should, would, must, can, could, could, have to or has to, may, might, will. And these are only the examples because there are actually more of the examples of modal verbs. Okay, and usually after these modal verbs it must be followed by the verb. Okay, or if it is not followed by verb, it must be followed by be with adjective. So for example, I should talk, or we should talk, or we should be nice. Okay, so that is the modal verbs sample. I hope this is quite clear for you because this is something that you have been familiar with since you, I guess, first learned English. Now we'll be discussing about the characteristics of modal verbs. So first of all, we usually use modals with other verbs, not alone in a sentence. Like for example, the example that I have just given you about I should talk. Okay, so if you only say I should, it doesn't make sense. So you need to use the modals with the other verbs to make it more sense. To make more sense to it. Okay, and then after that, we do not change the form of the modals. We don't say, for example, I should talk become I should talk, or she should talk, because that is not the characteristic of modal verbs. So modal verbs, we don't change the form. Okay, and then we also do not add ed, ing, s or es to the main verb. Like for example, the one that I have given the example to, I should talk. If it is she should, you don't say she should talks, because we do not add anything to the main verb. Okay, and then we normally do not use to after the modal. So you don't say I should to talk, because that's a incorrect modal use, unless like for example, the use of modal have to and has to or had to. Those are the modals that originally already have to inside the modals. Okay, but the others do not use to after the modals. Okay, so those are the characteristics of the modal verbs. Now we'll be discussing the use of the modal verbs. So some of the modal verbs are used to express the first one, the ability, the willingness, the future, the obligation, the certainty, probability, and the permission. So we are going to find out the use of these modal verbs one by one. So let us check the next slide. Now for the ability, because it says ability, someone's being able to do something, then you want to use the expressions of can as the model to express your ability. For example, I can run 3 kilometers in less than 1 hour. So you want to express your ability to run in less than 1 hour. And also you can use it for a question. For example, can you sing any song? This is to ask for an ability of someone, whether he or she can sing or not. Okay, so this is one of the use of the modals for ability. Next, we will be discussing the function of or the use of modals for willingness. So willingness, whether you actually want to or not want to. Okay, so for example, I will be happy to come to your party. So I will be happy to come to your party. I'm willing to come to your party. Or shall I get you anything to drink? Do you want me to get you anything to drink? So the willingness of I to get you anything to drink. Okay, so this is the example of modal verbs to express the willingness. I hope this explanation is quite clear for you. And also there's one over here. I would love to hear your story. So would is also an expression to say your willingness for an activity. So for example, I would love to see you soon, for example. So I am willing to see you again. Okay, so that is the expressions of modal verbs for willingness. And also we will follow all the instruction. You are willing to follow the instructions. Okay, now we'll be continuing with the use of modals for future expression. For the future expression over here, you can see that the function of the modals is to express something that is intended to happen in the future. For example, I will attend the meeting this afternoon, or she will depart tomorrow's evening. So normally, to express for the modal's expression for future, there is a time indication or time signal to express that this is actually something functions for future plan. Okay, so that is the use of modal verbs. Now, to express the obligation, there are some expressions to say. The first one is using must, and then the second one is using have to, and then the third one is using should. Okay, so for example, you can say, I must visit my friend who is hospitalized, or I have to visit my friend who is hospitalized, or I should visit my friend who is hospitalized. But you have to take notes over here that these modals express different degrees of obligation. If you are talking about the different degree, then probably in a percentage, must would be something that is 100%. Have to will be like 80 to 90%, and should will be lower than that. Okay, so must is a strong obligation, so it's like you must do this or there will be a consequences. Have to, yeah, you still have consequences, but not as strong as the word must or as the modals must. And if it is should, then it is more like a suggestion rather than an obligation. Okay, so yeah, so this is the function or the use of modals to express the obligation. Now to talk about certainty or uncertainty, you can also use the expression of may or might. Okay, so for example, she may be ill or she might be ill. You are not quite certain whether she is actually ill. So you use the expressions of may or might to express certainty or uncertainty. Now to express possibility, you can also have three expressions, three modals over here. You can also use may, you can also use might, but you can also say must. For example, Jane may be attending Eve's birthday party tonight, or Jane might be attending Eve's birthday party tonight, or Jane must be attending at Eve's birthday party tonight. So like for example, you're asking this, the situation for this sentence would be someone is asking where Jane would be for tonight. Okay, where will be Jane for tonight? and then someone say, oh, Jane may be attending someone's birthday, or Jane might be, or Jane must be. So it is still possible, so there is a possibility that Jane would be attending Eve's birthday party. Okay, so that is the use for possibility. And then for the last one, for a permission, the use of modals for permission, you can use can, could, or may. Okay, for example, can I sit next to you? Could I sit next to you? Or may I sit next to you? So this is for the sentence over here is to express permission. Okay, so can over here is not telling you about the ability, because it's not the context over here is not expressing someone's ability to sit next to you, but it is more of a permission rather than an ability. So some of the modals may have more than one use. Therefore, you need to be able to identify based on the context what is the use of modals based on the context. Okay, so you cannot really say that can is only for ability. No, it is unlikely to determine one modal for only one function, because modals can be used for many functions depending on the context of the sentence. Okay, so I hope that is quite clear for you. Because yeah, so and then there's also for the permission, could and may are used in a more formal situation and tend to sound more polite. So if you say could I or may I, it's usually a more polite expression compared to the word can. So in summary, you can see over here, can be used in some, may can be used in some use, and then will can also be used for some use, and etc. Okay, so have a look by yourself over here. Now have a look by yourself. I gave you some practice. Please do it by yourself, and remember, you need to be able to identify the context first before you decide which modals is the correct modal to use. Okay? Now, for the second practice, what I want you to do is to identify the modal verbs in the reading of Young Environmental Heroes. Okay, only identification first, and after that, once you understand which ones are the modals, for the next practice, for practice 3, I want you to identify and classify the use of modal verbs in the following passage. It is talking about the environment. Okay, and then after that, put the use of the modals according to the function over here. So that last practice of practice 3 would bring us to the end of this video for week 4. So very quickly, I want you to assess your progress in this unit. If you think that you can understand some of the reading text related to the environment, then do the checklist. And then if you can comprehend modal verbs and their function or their use, please give check. And then if you can classify the modals according to the context, then give checklist. Sorry, that's very long checklist over there. Okay, and for the next video, we'll be talking about the advertisement. Okay, so that should be all. Here is the source, and thank you very much, everyone. I hope to see you in the practicum session, and please watch my video for week 5 and the next video. Goodbye, everyone.